Okay, class, this particular video will be out of my PowerPoints on male reproductive anatomy and sperm development, but however, this particular will only concentrate on male reproductive anatomy, and then in a later video we'll look at sperm development and other things. Okay. So primarily what we're looking at is the reproductive system of the male. Now, we have the primary sex organs, which are the gonads. Now, here I show the ovaries, but of course we're focusing on the testes. And they produce the sperm, which are your gametes. You also have steroid hormones secreted, primarily the androgens. Okay, in females, of course, estrogen and progesterone. And then you have the testes, and the other items outside the testes would be the accessory reproductive, which would be your ducts, glands, external genitalia. Okay, so we're focusing on the anatomy. All right, here is the male anatomy, as you can see here. Take this off. Here's the male anatomy. And our interest in this, as we blow it up, is right here, of course, is the testes. So we'll just name a few structures. Right here would be the testes, which we'll talk about. Here would be the epididymis. Remember, epi means above, so that this is an epididymis right here. Then from the epididymis, and we'll go into detail on that, you have this deferens, ductus deferens, also called the vas deferens, which comes around and then swells in an area called the ampulla. In the ampulla, which would be the vas deferens. Now, the sperm would be produced in the testicle, then it would go into the epididymis, which we'll talk about, and primarily be stored there. Of course, the epididymis does other things too. Removes some fluid and adds nutrients to in order to mobilize the sperm. The sperm is stored in the epididymis, and we'll talk about that. Then, upon ejaculation, the sperm will go up the ductus deferens, vas deferens, go into the ampulla, and from the ampulla, what will happen is they'll come. Then right here is the seminole vesicle. Seminole vesicle produces about 70% of the semen that the male has, and it adds fructose, citrate, and some other things. And then these two combine. So here's the seminole vesicle and its duct, and here is the vas deferens, its duct, and this comes then into the ejaculatory duct, which is entering into the prostate area there. And then right here, what you have is the bulbourethral glands, which will contribute later after the prostate, this being the prostate right here. This being the prostate right here. And then you'll go into the urethra of the penis, we'll talk about, and then it'll go down the urethra here. Okay? This right here is the urinary bladder. So you can see this is the ureter. You've already studied that. Here's the ureter is cut. And so this would be bringing the urine down from the kidneys into the bladder. Then from the bladder, of course, right underneath is the prostate gland. Right there, as you see. Okay. And so right here, urine and semen basically join in the male and come out. Here's the penis again, right there. The penis has, this is the tip, which is the glans penis. This is the penile urethra. So with the urethra, you have a prostatic urethra inside the prostate, a membranous urethra. Right here is the urogenital diaphragm. Right there, that's the membranous. and then the spongy urethra, which is also the penile urethra, and then there's an enlargement right here. Then this is the urethral orifice that you have there. Okay. Then you have these carpers, these spaces, the carpus cavernosum and spongiosum. The spongiosum is spongy, and the urethra is located within the corpus spongiosum. The cavernosum, and there are two that we'll see, actually is more for erection of the penis because of how it works. Okay, we'll go a little further. So please go back and look at that. Okay, the testes are within the scrotum. They produce the sperm. The sperm are delivered through the exterior, through the ducts, which we talked about, the epididymis, the ductus deferens, also called the vas deferens, ejaculatory duct, and of course the urethra. Okay, all of these things are what we discussed. Now here, right here is a blow up of the testes area. Okay, let's look at this. Now, covering the testes, which this right here, is what we call the tunica vaginalis. Because of how the testes descend from the abdominal cavity, it brings some of the peritoneum with it. So the tunica vaginalis, which is the outer one, is really the come down of the peritoneum. Then within that is a fibrous capsule known as the tunica albuginea, some call it genia, which is actually surrounding the testes here. Okay. The tunica albuginea gives some indentations of that dense connective tissue to divide the testes into small lobes known as lobules. And in each lobule, right here, you would have 1 to up to 4 seminiferous tubules. The seminiferous tubules actually are where the sperm is going to be produced. The seminiferous tubules. These are long, twisted tubules. And the tubules are located in lobules. And the lobules were separated by septums. And the septums were caused by the infolding of the tunica albuginea. Okay. Right here is the space between the tunica vaginalis, which again was formed by the downpouring of the peritoneum, and the tunica albuginea. All right. Now, the sperm, which we will talk about, but not in this video, is actually produced in the seminiferous tubules, the sperm itself. The sperm, after it's produced in the seminiferous tubules, then travels up, and we'll talk about the construct of the tubule, which is made of epithelial cells and things of this nature. It travels up to this straight tubule, then to this rete testes. So you make it, then you go to this straight tubule, made here, straight tubule, rete testes, which is a bunch of tubules kind of clustered together. From there, the made sperm, which is really inactive, then goes to the efferent duct tube, and then right here, what you have is this area right up in here. Okay. And this particular area here, so this area here, which is the head of the epididymis, right there. So again, seminiferous tubules produce the sperm, straight tubules still in the testes, rete testes, leaving the testes, go to the efferent duct tube, and then I'm in the epididymis, right here. These coiled tubes, which can be up to 20 feet long. If you straighten all of this out, 20 feet. 20 feet. Now, they enter the head of the epididymis, then there's a body of the epididymis, and then there's a tail. So it enters the head, then you have the body, then you have the tail of the epididymis. Within the epididymis, as we'll see, the non-motile sperm will begin to become motile. Now this is also, the epididymis is the area where sperm is stored, and it can be stored up to several months. If the sperm is not used, then phagocytosis will destroy the sperm in there. But this is where the sperm is actually stored. It's not stored here in the testes, it's stored in the epididymis, and so upon ejaculation, it's initiating from the epididymis, not from here. Not from here. So the sperm can stay within that epididymis, and it takes about 20 days from here to make the sperm more motile in there. Now what the epididymis will do, it'll even give some defensins for protection. It will also, these long tubes can absorb extra fluid from that to give a better storage, but also will add nutrients to it at the same time. Okay, and we'll talk about that. Now, from the epididymis, it will then go to the vas deferens, which is this, ductus deferens. Now, right here, you have a testicular artery coming down. This is the spermatic cord, covered by this tissue right here, which is this fibrous tissue. So you have the spermatic artery, or the testicular artery, shall I say? It's testicular artery, and then you have these testicular veins, but they form a plexus. And what happens is you want the veins, which have cooler blood, to absorb the heat from the artery, which is warmer blood, so that you don't heat up the testicles too much and prevent formation of the sperm. Okay, so then right here would be the vas deferens, and then we go from there. Okay. So the scrotum, which is the sac of the superficial, hangs outside the cavity. It contains pair of testes. There's a septum between the two to separate the two testicles. You want the temperature to be kept at a certain temperature, generally 3 degrees centigrade lower than the body temperature. Body temperature around 37 degrees. And you don't want them to get too cool or too hot. So in cool weather, a muscle, the cremaster muscle, will pull the testes up, and then in warmer weather, it'll let them go further down. And then also the scrotum will wrinkle up. There's a muscle called the dartos muscle that wrinkles the scrotal sac to bring it in cold weather. Okay. Now right here is a picture of what we kind of talked about, just in a different angle. Testes again, peniform plexus, testicular artery coming off the abdominal aorta. So this is no more than just another picture of the same thing. Here's the shaft of the penis. Here's the glans penis right there. And so here is the prepuce, which this is the thing that in circumcision is removed in some males. Here's the cremaster muscle and so forth. So here are all the features that we talked about earlier. Okay. We'll go a little further. The testes surrounded by the tunica vaginalis, as we spoke of, and the tunica albuginea, fibrous capsule, divided into the lobules I mentioned, that we already talked about. Okay. So I'm going to end right here with this one, and then I'm going to pick it right back up on the next with this one.